Two St. Louis natives getting a chance to chat before tonight's first pitch. Ryan Howard and Kyle McClellan. Last night, Ryan Howard doing what he does best, and that's going deep. And he does it all the time against the Cardinals on this year. That was home run number 16. He now has driven in 61 RBIs already this season. We're expecting over 40,000 here tonight. It's Game 3 between the Phillies and the Cardinals. And along with Rick Horton, I'm Dan McLaughlin. Delighted to have you with us here on Fox Sports Midwest. And the Cardinals, Rick, in the worst way, need a win tonight.
Yeah, the pitching's been outstanding for the Phillies in Game 1 and 2, and they've got another good one going tonight. Really, Dan, just 2 weeks ago, the Cardinals had the best record in all of baseball. Maybe things weren't that good then, and I don't think things are as bad as people think they are now. They just got to find a way to get out of this slump they're in right now, and maybe with Chris Carpenter, that's the way to get it done tonight.
Yeah, it's a great matchup. Roy Oswalt, the former Astro, against Carpenter. The big man on the hill tonight, trying to snap this two-game losing streak and salvage a game in the series. Baseball is coming up. Back in St. Louis, where Charlie Manuel and the Phillies are looking for a sweep. They'll have to do it against one of the top right-handers for the Cardinals. Numbers-wise, they're not there this year, but that's Chris Carpenter.
5-2 lifetime against the Phillies. He does have an ERA over 5 against the Phils, but he does also own a 3-game winning streak, so he's on the right path. The Cardinals need him to be sharp tonight.
Roy Oswalt, the former Astro, will go for the Phillies. Two big right-handers squaring off. The Phils and Cardinals coming up in Game 3. Former MVPs, and these four have done some damage with the long ball against St. Louis, and that includes Jimmy Rollins in Game 2 last night.
MVPs are supposed to produce, and these four have done it against the Cardinals this year. Jimmy Rollins and Ryan Howard did it last night against Kyle Loesch. They're both in the lineup again tonight.
When we come back, we'll talk about the top 5 National League rotations. Wonder which is number 1. I think we got a pretty good idea. That's next. The Cardinals have been shut down in this series against the Phillies because of starting pitching. Roy Halladay, Cliff Lee last night. How about the top 5 rotations in the league? Here's Jim Hayes.
Chris Carpenter became the team's ace when Adam Wainwright went down. But a 1-7 record has left Carpenter frustrated. Carp has carried the Cardinals for years, and now it's his teammates' turn to carry him. Jaime Garcia is proving he's not a one-year wonder. Despite his collapse at Coors Field, he's still one of the NL's best pitchers, the best at home for sure. The big surprises this year have been the Kyles, Loesch and McClellan. Loesch looks like the Loesch of 2008, and McClellan looks to get back on track after his hip injury. Westbrook struggled early on, but has rebounded to win 4 of his last 7 games. Just imagine how good this team would have been if they still had Wainwright. The Braves rotation is loaded, from established veteran Tim Hudson to future ace Tommy Hanson. Between Hudson and Hanson is Derek Lowe, Jair Jurgens, and Brandon Beachy, all capable of pitching in October. Jurgens has quietly become one of baseball's best pitchers. This isn't the starting rotation the Braves had in the 1990s, but it's still pretty good. The Milwaukee Brewers needed to help Giovanni Gallardo. He was the only pitcher last year the Brewers could count on. Now they've added Zach Greinke and Sean Markham, and all of a sudden the Brewers are a force in the Central. Prince Fielder and Ryan Braun are great, but now the Brewers are great because they added starting pitching. Tim Lincecum almost single-handedly carried the Giants to a World Series win last year. He's taken home 2 of the last 3 Cy Young Awards, and again is one of the league leaders in strikeouts. He and Matt Cain provide an incredible 1-2 punch, but it's been the consistency of Jonathan Sanchez and Madison Bumgarner that has helped San Francisco to be successful, giving the Giants just another weapon to use to defend their championship. They say a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, so it's a good thing Joe Blanton is still hurt. Roy Halladay, Cliff Lee, and Roy Oswalt have all done their job since coming to Philadelphia, but the Phillies' best pitcher has been the pitcher who's been there all along. Cole Hamels leads the team in quality starts, and fortunately, the Cardinals haven't seen him yet this year. The Phillies starters have been as good as advertised, and when the offense decides to wake up, they'll be the favorites to make their third World Series appearance in the last 4 years.
Cardinals baseball is brought to you by Budweiser. Great times are waiting. Grab some buds. By Chevy. See your Mid-America Chevy dealers. By Southwest Airlines. New Rapid Rewards. Unlimited reward seats and no blackout dates. By Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. #1 in quality tires and expert auto service. And by Steak and Shake. Life needs flavor. Along with Rick Horton, I'm Dan McLaughlin. You'll see Al on the post-game show. And we're glad you're with us as the Cardinals look to avoid a sweep here tonight. And a look at the Philadelphia Phillies lineup brought to you by Southwest Airlines with Rollins, Victorino, and Utley here in the first. And then Howard, Polanco, Francisco, Brown, Ruiz, and Oswalt. Chris Carpenter, it's hard to believe when you look at those numbers. Only 1 in 7. Here's a look at his scouting report.
His stuff is still very strong, still throwing in the low to mid 90s. A little inconsistent and sometimes very inconsistent with his location. That's where he's had problems. Cutter is the key pitch for Carpenter, trying to win his second game of the season.
And the Cardinals just trying to get healthy before they head back on the road. They'll welcome Toronto to town tomorrow. Final time we see the Phillies here in St. Louis this year. And the first pitch is a strike to Jimmy Rollins. Rollins, the MVP of the 2007 season. 3-time All-Star, 3 Gold Gloves, and a 30-30 man, and also a free agent to be. The Phillies, and who would have thought this, Rick, 5, maybe 10 years ago, that they would be only $3 million away from the tax threshold in Major League Baseball, meaning that their payroll is now currently constructed one of the highest in baseball.
And one of the things I think the Phillies have done almost single-handedly is raise the level of the National League. I think teams in the National League realize you're going to have to spend money to compete against Charlie Manuel's team, so go out and get some good players, and we're seeing that now in the All-Star game postseason. I think the National League in interleague play has done much better, and I think the Phillies have something to do with that.
And the Phillies own the best record in baseball at 47-28, 4.5 games in front of Atlanta, and Atlanta has played good baseball, 10 games above 500. 3-2. The scouting report will tell you that Chris Carpenter is not throwing his breaking ball as much this year, but a lot of cutters and changeups to go along with that fastball.
Yeah, and the key we're going to look towards throughout the night with Carpenter is how often does he hit the glove of Tony Cruz. Cruz behind the plate instead of Molina tonight, and Dave Duncan, of course, will be watching for the same thing. The command of Chris Carpenter is critical right now.
A 3-2 pitch, and he got him. A strikeout to start the game. Defense behind Carp tonight with Holiday, Rasmus, and Jay in the outfield. Descalso, Terrio, Schumacher, and Berkman along the infield, and the battery tonight, Carpenter and Tony Cruz. Tony Cruz set up on the outside portion of the plate. That was in, and yet Carpenter got away with it.
Yeah, the results were good, but I think long term that's not really what Chris Carpenter's looking for. He's going to have to hit the glove of Cruz all night long. Here's the Plaza Tire Foxmo delivery of Chris Carpenter. A lot of effort when he pitches. He's not 100% effort guy, but pretty close to it.
Broken bat hit to second, and Victorino is retired. And it brings in Chase Utley. Cardinals have not had good results, obviously, in this series with 2 losses, but the starting pitchers, Kyle McClellan in game 1 was 6 outs away from a win. And last night you take away the 4th inning with the home run by Howard, also a home run by Rollins. And Tony La Russa has seen good starting pitching from Kyle Loesch as well. Here's Utley sitting on 3 home runs. He's driven in 16 this year and batting .265. They're still waiting for him to get back to that top
level that we are accustomed to seeing him play at.
Can he wait until tomorrow?
And maybe take 3 days off in September for us? He is a heck of a player. 0-1 pitch to Chase Utley. Make it 0-2. Breaking ball that time, and we talked about it moments ago. We'll see if Carpenter goes to that curveball a little bit more here tonight. And a fly ball into right field. John Jay is there. Good start for Carpenter. Cardinals coming up in their half of the first. Back in St. Louis at Busch Stadium, over 40,000 here tonight for the Cards and the Phils in game number 3. Brian Terrio will lead it off, followed by Jay and Holiday. Then Berkman, Rasmus, Schumacher, Cruz, Carpenter, Descalso. That's brought to you by Southwest Airlines. And there's a look at Roy Oswalt.
He pitches in very, very well. He uses that inside part of the plate against right-handers. He also has an outstanding repertoire: fastball, curveball, changeup, and he is a tenacious competitor, the best number 4 starter in all of baseball.
Hard to believe you say Roy Oswalt a number 4.
Yeah, and it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek because he really isn't a number 4. They've got maybe 2 number 1s and 2 number 2s.
Might be able to say 4 number 1s.
You could.
On a lot of teams, any one of those guys would be. The fly ball out to left, and the catch is made. So Terrio is retired, and a look at the defense behind Oswalt presented by Dobbs. Francisco Victorino, and the right fielder tonight for the Phillies is Dominic Brown. Polanco, Rollins, Utley, and Howard along the infield. And it's Oswalt and Ruiz, the Dobbs defense. And there's a look at the big man at first, Ryan Howard. As he crushed an opposite field home run last night.
Very typical of him. He went the other way with great power, and Chris Carpenter is going to have to find a way to control him tonight.
Here's the 0-1 pitch.
The power hitters get into that kind of that groove, Dan, where they start to see the ball well, hit it. We saw that happen with Fielder with Milwaukee, where he was just kind of on a power binge, and you'd hate to see that happen right now with Ryan Howard while he's sleeping here at home.
The 0-2 pitch to Jay. Last time we saw Roy Oswalt, 5 innings. He was just coming off the disabled list. That was back on May 17th. Matter of fact, it snapped a string of 26 consecutive starts against the Cardinals of 6 or more innings. You think about that curveball that has different variations of his speeds, a changeup, and the fastball that's in the mid-90s. And it's that same delivery, Rick, every single time. That big stride coming to the plate.
He gets everything he can out of that frame. He likes to pitch up, too. He's going up and in on John Jay again. He likes to pitch inside. In fact, the Cardinals have had issues with him in the past. He's not afraid to come up and in. The Cardinals sometimes sensitive to that. But he certainly gets a lot out of his ability. He's just 6 feet tall, but throws very, very hard.
That tails away for a ball low, and the count is even 2-2. John Jay is hitting .300, 4 homers. He's driven in 14. Very solid rookie campaign a year ago. And Jay crushes this into deep right field. 1-0 St. Louis with a long home run over the bullpen in right.
Oswalt made a mistake, and John Jay capitalized on it. Off-speed pitch up in the zone. Oswalt knew it. John Jay took care of that baseball. Wow.
That
good
is
power.
one of the longest home runs we've seen to right field in a long time. It was even over the seats of that first section just above the bullpen, the Cardinals bullpen in right field. 427 feet, the distance of that home run.
And that had the makings of a bad at-bat for John Jay. He was getting jammed by Oswalt, and he was bound and determined to get him out with a changeup through and just hung it right in the middle of the plate and really hit the bat speed and the stride of John Jay perfectly, and it went a long, long way.
Those two right there, Descalso and Jay, are roommates. Two best friends on this team. As Holiday muscles it out to right and Brown makes the catch. We have a special guest coming up tonight. I think everybody will look forward to this. Adam Wainwright will be our guest, and we'll get an update on his progress at FS Midwest on Twitter if you'd like to send us your questions for Adam Wainwright. Here is Lance Berkman. Berkman, a two-hit night from the right side of the plate against Cliff Lee. Chops one towards second, underhanded there by Utley. The Cardinals strike first. John Jay, home run number 5, RBI number 15, a long shot into right, and the Cardinals have a 1-0 lead. Every Thursday on FoxSportsMidwest.com, we'll bring you the Farm Report. Brian Wilson will check in on the prospects in the Cardinals farm system. Head to FoxSportsMidwest.com. It's the Farm Report. 1-0. The Cardinals have a lead. Here is Ryan Howard to lead it off for the Phillies. Howard is hitting .261, 16 home runs, and he's driven in 61 this year.
Last pitch, the cutter from Carpenter. It's the pitch we'll pay attention to a lot tonight. He started to use that a lot more than his curveball. There was a time where his curveball was just an absolute strikeout pitch. He'd use it a lot. There the curveball comes, but he's made some mistakes with the curveball. He's kind of hung it a few times, and I think that's part of the reason Danny's gone away from it some. He just feels a little less confident that he's going to be sharp with it every time.
The 1-2 pitch, and a swing and a miss. Strikeout number 2 for Chris Carpenter.
Off-speed pitch from Carpenter leads to his second strikeout. Down in the zone. Now he's struck out 2 MVP hitters over the last 10 years. Mentioned that the Cardinals have given up home runs to MVPs, but he's handled Rollins and Howard early, and I'd say his stuff is sharp.
Adam Wainwright will join us at some point tonight, we hope. Talking there with Gerald Laird, who is not close to returning just yet, but a couple of other guys are. And John Mozeliak was part of a function that I emceed today here at the ballpark, Rick, and one of the questions was about guys returning. And this team, and it's been well documented, it's been banged up. And David Freese and also Nick Punto could rejoin the team possibly at some point next week.
That'd be wonderful.
You know, Freese's spot is huge when you think about the loss of Albert Pujols and trying to get production in this lineup. And you look over the last week or so, this team has not been getting on base, and that's a real problem, obviously.
Well, if you don't have Pujols and then you add to that problem not having Freese and Allen Craig, you've taken away a lot of right-handed power.
You really have. Brian Terrio puts that away, and Polanco is retired for out number 2. You would love to see some offense tonight for Chris Carpenter. That's one of the reasons why Carpenter has a record of just 1 win. The offense has not been very good behind him for whatever reason in his starts.
Run support matters.
Yes, it does.
There's only so many things you can control as a starting pitcher. One of them is what you do with the bat. Carpenter needs to be able to get the bunt down when he has an opportunity, get a hit now and again. But you really can't control whether the guys catch it behind you or whether they score runs for you. You just got to just focus on your job at hand.
Liner into center field, and it gets away from Colby Rasmus. That will go all the way to the wall, and Francisco is on his way to third with a stand-up triple. Francisco with the stand-up triple. Now another aspect of the games for Carpenter at times has been defense that has let him down.
Yeah, I'm okay with Rasmus trying to make a dive here to save this because there are 2 outs and nobody on. So I'm not sure that's a bad play by him. I'm not sure Francisco's thinking 4 right here. Maybe he should have. 3 was kind of a no-brainer, but I think if he'd have run faster out of the box, he might have had a chance of scoring on that.
So it's a base hit, E8 on the play, single E8. But going back to the last start for Carpenter, remember Tyler Green had a play that could have been an inning-ending double play if he steps on the bag and goes to first. Instead, tries to go to the plate, and everybody was safe. Costly mistake. And the next day, he was at Memphis.
If you think you have a 20 or 30% chance of catching the ball, in that case where Rasmus is coming in, if you have a 20 to 30%, I think it's worth the effort. Because they're still going to need another hit to score this run. Now with nobody out, I would say you got to keep that ball in front of them.
And you ask Chris Carpenter to pick up Colby Rasmus here in this spot. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Colby will lead it off in the bottom of the second for the Cardinals. They have a 1-0 lead if you've just joined us. Solo home run by John Jay. 1-2 pitch, and a ground ball handled by Berkman. Flips to Carpenter. Runner is stranded at third. Colby off the hook and leads it off when we come back. It's 1-0 St. Louis, and we move to the bottom of the second. Colby Rasmus, Skip Schumacher, and Tony Cruz for the Redbirds as Busch Stadium is really filled up. What has turned out to be just perfect weather here tonight. Colby 4 for 9 against Roy Oswalt. I understand this weekend temperatures should be ideal for the Blue Jays coming to town in interleague play. And Toronto is 36 and 39. And at the start of play, they had lost 4 straight. So the Cardinals may be seeing them at the right time.
17 games for the Cardinals before the All-Star break, Dan, and you know you'd like to see them win 10 or 11 of those games to get back on track again. It's been a rough go the last 13 games or so. Really the last 11 games they've been 2-9, and that was after having the best record in all of baseball at that time. That was on June 10th, and this slide has been tough to deal with, but you know you just have to get through it. You have to keep plugging away, and perhaps this will be the low point of the season for the Cardinals, and they'll get out of it.
Well, this is the grind that is a Major League Baseball season. I mean, every team, even with the great pitching the Phillies have, Rasmus hits it sharply off the glove of Rollins into center field. But even the pitching that the Phillies have, at some point you'll see them possibly even hit a run. We talked about the stride, and here it is.
Well, we're going to put 2 pitchers together for you. Chris Carpenter, he's 6'6". Oswald's 6 feet tall even. So who do you think's going to stride out farther? Obviously the guy who's 6'6", right? No, the guy that's 6 feet tall actually gets out further than Carpenter. Carpenter more the tall and fall, and Oswald the drop and drive, and just look how much lower his head is than Carpenter. When he releases the ball, he is just driving his body to the plate. You'll get a big argument on that question with pitching coaches, is which is the best way, and the answer is whichever way produces results.
There you go. What do you feel most comfortable with?
Right.
Here is Skip Schumacher. Skip has had a very good homestand. That walk-off homer against Kansas City on Sunday afternoon. Briefly had the go-ahead RBI against the Phillies in Game 1. And he picks up a base hit to right here. This is why Roy Oswalt may actually be a number 4, like Ricky said. It's our Toyota keys to the game. Look at those numbers.
Yeah, well, the numbers are just so great for the other guys, but Oswalt at 4 and 5 at the 3.38. You'd like to have him in your rotation, obviously. And Roy Oswalt, Dan, we also know, can be 4 and 5 in June, and then we'll see him again in September, and all of a sudden he's 17 and 5. I mean, he just has the ability to start reeling off victories. Sometimes he's a slow starter, but he's usually a pretty good finisher.
Finished in the top 5. As you get a look at Halladay and Hamels, but Oswalt top 5 in the Cy Young Award voting 5 different times. And we saw him shut down the Cardinals in postseason play in 2005. Roy was on the mound when Busch Stadium 2 came to a close. Here's Tony Cruz, no homers, and batting .240 this year. Cruz, right side, base hit. Here comes Rasmus. And he will score. 2-0 Cardinals. 3 consecutive singles to start the second inning.
RBI base hit the other way. He's just trying to hit behind the runner. He gets more than that. He gets an RBI. And Colby Rasmus is safe at home, safe and secure. New York Life.
And now it brings in Chris Carpenter. This is one of those spots that we talked about from the previous game, helping your own cause for Carp and getting this bunt down. Runners at first and second, and he takes strike 1. And Ricky, let's talk a little bit about having a left-handed first baseman in this spot, how that benefits Ryan Howard and the Phillies trying to get that lead man.
Well, he's going to charge hard, and it is a lot easier for a left-hander to throw because he will not be throwing across his body as he throws across the diamond. Somebody's going to be at third. The third baseman's going to hang back if it's bunted to first, and a much better chance of getting that lead runner. Schumacher does run well, but they are trying to hold him close at second base with Jimmy Rollins.
And that's strike 2, so 0-2 here on Carpenter with nobody out.
And I would say bunt again. I never knew the bunt sign. All my years of playing, never had a bunt sign. They didn't know what they were. Whitey Herzog would say to me on the on-deck circle, bunt until you're out. And so that was my sign. It was verbal, bunt until you're out.
There weren't many position players that broke camp for Whitey Herzog if they couldn't bunt. I mean, that was a big facet of Whitey ball.
Absolutely. Perfect bunt. Make the third baseman field it. That's helping yourself out right there.
Sack 5-4 on the play, and it brings in Daniel Descalso. What'll be interesting is when Freese comes back, Rick is trying to keep a guy like Descalso sharp. Where do you want him to play? And we've seen he can play third. He was drafted and then moved to second base. He's done that. He was telling me not too long ago that he played even a little first base at AAA a year ago out of necessity because of injuries. But you're asking young players to compete at this level, and yet they're used to being everyday players and now not being an everyday guy and staying sharp at the major league level.
Well, he's going to get a chance to play a lot because he's been consistent. He's driven in runs. He's had an effect on what goes on the field when he's in there. So you're going to find a place for him. So when David Freese comes back, will he be playing every day? Probably not. I mean, you're not going to expect him to be out there every day. So you got to find at bats for Descalso, and his versatility will help him. It'll help him get in the lineup, certainly against right-handed starters.
Here's the 0-2.
Dan, the Cardinals have had 16 different combinations up the middle already this season. I'm not sure they're done yet. They may try some more, but the combinations of shortstop and second base, 16 different combinations. I'm not sure that's ever been equal.
That's pulled foul.
You think about
Is
Cosma?
that right? 16.
I can show them to you. That's Cosma, and that's Green, and it's Punto, and it's Terrio, and it's Descalzo, and it's Alan Craig, and all the combinations in between.
Schumacher.
And 16 different combinations, and it's June 23rd.
One ball and 2 strikes on Descalzo. And he went. It's a strikeout. Oswalt gets a big strikeout early in this game. He needed that. That's his first of the night. You wonder if Carlos Ruiz is out there to check on Oswalt. Looked like he may have grabbed his back, and he has had back problems last couple of years.
We talked about
Did you see that too?
I didn't see it, but I'm not surprised by it. And we've seen Oswalt have those problems before, and we've also seen him with a lot of hamstring issues and groin issues because he has such a long stride and such a violent delivery to the plate.
Terrio hits it out of play.
Didn't seem comfortable again there.
I'm assuming that's why Ruiz went out there, just to check on his battery mate here tonight. Runners at second and third. Outfield is straight away. 1 ball, 1 strike on Terrio. Flied out to left his first time up.
He does not look right on that follow through there. He just came off of that pitch as quickly as he could. He actually was tentative on the finish and just spun out of that pitch just to avoid the pain. I think there's something wrong with Oswalt.
Up the middle, base hit. 1 run is in. Here comes another. Throw to the plate. Not in time, and it's 4-0 St. Louis. 2-out RBI base hit. Ryan Terrio. Jimmy Rollins now coming in to have a visit.
Ryan Terrio has been outstanding in this situation all year long. 26 RBIs out of the leadoff spot already, and he has come through often with 2 outs and runners in scoring position. And the Cardinals are getting production at the top of their lineup with Terrio and Jay.
We think we're seeing it. It looked like Ruiz questioned how Oswalt was feeling. Then you saw Rollins coming in. You wonder if he was asking him, are you all right? And now it looks like they're picking up on the same thing as Cal Kendrick is starting to get loose. That may be it.
A little surprised we haven't seen a trainer yet.
The 2-0 pitch.
Seems very tentative. He has a habit of really just kind of curling his glove against his back at the end, and just not sure whether he's doing that out of habit or out of some pain.
That's up the middle. Utley a diving stop, and they get the lead man at second. Fine play there made by Chase Utley. The Cardinals pick up 3. They lead it 4-0 after 2.
Boy.
Cardinals baseball is brought to you by Stadium Sports Bar and Grill. They have changed the game, located at Lumiere Place Casino and Hotels. And for all the reasons you invest, mutual funds from Goldman Sachs. We're in downtown St. Louis. Charlie Manuel and the Phillies will have a decision to make, and it looks like, Rick, that decision may have already been made, with Kendrick continuing to throw in the bullpen. Oswalt's spot is second.
The only thing I can think of, Dan, from the Phillies' point of view is Oswalt deals with this all the time, and so they may just be kind of relying on him to say, either I can do it or I can't. And he's had such a history of, again, back and hamstring issues that probably not new to them.
This is Ruiz at the plate. Rick, correct me if I'm wrong. Oswalt should be on deck. He is not. Then you'd see Jimmy Rollins, and then you would see Shane Victorino, who is at the on deck circle right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure you're allowed to do that.
And now Victorino, who is at the on deck circle, heads back to the dugout. And the idea was you're supposed to have somebody at the on deck circle, but he's in the game.
I'm not sure if you're allowed to do that or not, but they just did it.
And you just passed me a note that you want to protest this game.
No, I'm so far so good. The only protest ones that you're losing 4-0.
All right. Here's Cliff Lee. That was odd, wasn't it?
It was very bizarre.
Cliff Lee threw his second straight shutout last night over his last 4 games. He's allowed only 1 run in 33 innings. It's a .27 ERA. And Lee taps it foul. He was asked, how deep could you have gone in that ball game last night? He said easily 10 or 11. He said in the 12th, maybe I would have had a little problem with that. That's how good he said he was feeling.
When you're pitching well and your mechanics are good, it's a whole different story. The pitch count doesn't matter.
0-2. So Oswalt, his night is through. Cliff Lee, the pinch hitter, and the 0-2 pitch, a swing and a miss, and Lee strikes out. And Chris Carpenter, first time through this lineup, strikes out 3. Pitch count 33. 23 of those have been strikes. 37 pitches, by the way, for Roy Oswalt, and 26 were strikes. See the run support this season, and then what Carpenter's had already here tonight. Here's Jimmy Rollins, and Rollins on the first pitch hits it into shallow right, and the catch made by an outfielder playing second. That's Skip Schumacher. There is a 48-hour ticket sale happening as we speak. It'll end tomorrow at midnight. Really a good deal for Cardinal fans. $12 pavilion level tickets. That includes a Sunday game July 31st against the Cubs, a Friday night against the Pirates. That's the Willie McGee bobblehead. And then Sunday, September 4th against the Reds. That's the Pujols Action Figurine Day. And all you have to do is go to cardinals.com/summer. And again, that's July 31st against the Cubs, August 26th, Willie McGee bobblehead, and then the Reds game on September 4th, the Pujols Action Figurine. Cardinals.com/summer. And again, those tickets only $12, and that offer is only good until midnight tomorrow. A lot of seats have already been sold today. So if you're on the fence and thinking about it, you better do it, because those will probably sell out. Here is Matt Holliday, and looks at a strike. Holliday, Berkman, and Rasmus for the Redbirds. Matt Holliday flying out to right his first time up. Kyle Kendrick is the new pitcher, and he's greeted with an extra base hit off the bat of Holliday. He'll dig for 2 as it's in the corner.
Holliday picks up the 6th Cardinal hit of the night. Tried to get in on him, and he pulled it just fair down the third base line. Kyle Kendrick, one of the kind of rotating 5th starters for the Phillies. They have a luxury, Dan, of having 3 guys that have been that 5th starter, which actually helps in situations like this where you need somebody to go a lot of innings. You have somebody who is certainly conditioned to do that in Kendrick, and he's having a pretty decent year, but he's in trouble already here in the 3rd.
Here is Lance Berkman, the switch hitter. Berkman grounded out to second his first time up. Outfield is deep. Runner at second is Holliday, and the first pitch is taken for a strike. Berkman with 17 home runs, 51 RBIs. You wonder where the club would be without the signing of Lance Berkman. Holiday missed considerable time. Pujols, we know, is going to miss, it looks like, at least 6 weeks, if not more. And this guy has turned out to be not only great on the field, but in the clubhouse as well. Time called again. Kendrick set career highs in games last year. Starts, innings pitched. Career high in wins with 11.
And it seems to me he just shook off about 6 pitches. How many does he throw? Berkman couldn't wait any longer, had to step out. Sometimes, usually to me, when a pitcher shakes off that many times, the problem is he wanted the fastball in a different spot. They called fastball away, then they went changeup, curveball, then go through everything else, and what he really wants is a fastball on the other side of the plate.
In the air, right field. It's high, it is deep, and it is just foul. Just foul.
He did indeed try to throw the fastball in, and Berkman almost made him pay for it.
Now it's 0-2 the count. This big crowd ready to erupt again here at Busch Stadium. He goes the other way, drops in for a hit, and Holiday had to wait to make sure that that wasn't caught, and it's runners at the corners with nobody out.
If there are 2 outs, Holiday would have been off with that line drive the other way and taken a chance, or even with 1 out perhaps. But with nobody out, smart play, make sure it's going to drop in left first.
And here is Colby Rasmus, who singled and scored back in the 2nd inning.
Here's Berkman. Pulls the fastball in. Then the pitch away. That's how you hit.
0-1 pitch now to Colby. Center field. Nope. It's going to be caught. Didn't quite get all of it. You could hear it. Just didn't sound very crisp off the bat. You can follow the Cardinals with MLB.com @bat11 for your iPhone, iPad, Android, or BlackBerry. Live audio, pitch-by-pitch tracking, video highlights, and more. Text @bat to 31826 or visit Cardinals.com for details. Thought it might sneak through and get into center. Instead, it was caught by Jimmy Rollins. Had the play to his left. And here is Skip Schumacher, who singled to right his first time up. Skip's average is on the rise after missing time. And he pulls one foul. Watch out.
Kendrick's not really fooling anybody yet.
No, he's not. What is the mindset of a bullpen guy like Kendrick when you have this kind of starting staff, and one of your best in Oswalt is on the mound, and here's an 0-1 pitch now to Skip Schumacher. You're thinking, am I ever going to see the 2nd inning of any game?
I was the 6th starter on a couple of Cardinal teams in the mid-'80s. Had a chance to be a long reliever, basically. Then you work short. When your team is winning, you're loving it. I mean, honestly, yeah, you want to start every 5th day. But if your team is winning and you're contributing, and basically he's still got a chance to get people out and do a good job for them today. In fact, he has a big job to do. Make sure he goes 3 or 4 innings so the rest of the bullpen isn't wasted. And when you're winning, that means more to your club than when you're losing.
Inside to Skip.
Nobody cares about a middle reliever for a last place team.
1 ball and 2 strikes. Inning started with a double by Holiday into the corner and left. Berkman went to left as well, opposite field with a single. And Rasmus lined out. Now a 1-2 pitch. Polanco giving chase and can't come up with it. But you and I have talked about it. Guys that play third base that was so good at this play. Great effort here by Polanco, but you played with Terry Pendleton, and we all saw Scott Rowland.
Every time I see that, I think of Terry Pendleton.
Yeah,
of course, Rowland's the second thought because he's really good at everything as well, but Terry was very adept at that ball over his head, catching it, little basket catch over his shoulder. Made it look easy.
The 1-2 pitch. Schumacher bounces it to second. Out there onto first, and he beat it. Run scores, and it's 5-0.
That would have been a great double play if the Phillies were able to turn this, because Utley has to go to his left. Berkman's coming hard on Rollins. He has to throw and jump at the same time, so he couldn't get enough on that throw, and Schumacher beats it out.
Tell you what, Berkman was really out of the line.
You have to be close enough to be able to touch the base from where you are, and not sure he was. But they didn't ask you,
so if he had to
and
touch,
they didn't ask me.
That means he'd have to be about fully stretched, wingspan of a 7-footer.
It works. Let's see if he can reach the base from there. Oh, sure he could have.
From our perspective, yes.
Maybe he could have.
Here's an 0-1 pitch to Tony Cruz. Instead, Schumacher is at second.
I do not understand why there aren't 5 people on the infield yelling step off when a guy takes. I mean, it's the simple thing to do. The catcher should be saying it. The third baseman should be saying it. Everybody knows it, except the pitcher can't see the early break by Schumacher. All you got to do is yell step off. Actually, the whole bench should be yelling it for that matter.
Here's an 0-1 pitch to Cruz. Little chopper, and Utley, who's been busy tonight, makes the play. Skip Schumacher helps the cause as Holiday scored, and coming up, our special guest Adam Wainwright in the booth next. Five, 7-1 for St. Louis, 0-1-0 for the Philadelphia Phillies, and this is a good sign for Cardinal fans to see. Adam Wainwright here in the booth, Rick Horton as well. And Adam, first and foremost, let's get right to it. How you feeling?
I'm feeling very good. Every day I wake up, I feel a little bit better, and come to the park and feeling strong. I've got my full range of motion. Everything's going really, really well.
Are you playing catch?
Starting Monday.
So starting Monday is a big day.
Starting Monday. I'm excited. I'll feel like a baseball player again.
And what does playing catch mean? Are you just 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or what's the plan?
I really don't know, to be honest with you. Of course, I've never done this before, so I don't know the protocol, but all I know is we're probably going to start slow and ease into a more extensive throwing program.
Chris Carpenter's on the mound here tonight, and he is dealing so far. Shane Victorino is the hitter. The Cardinals have a 5-run lead. Good to see some run support for Carp here tonight. We're in the top of the 4th, and our guest is Adam Wainwright. I know, speaking on behalf of Cardinal fans, it's been frustrating not to be able to watch you. I can only imagine what it's been like, the frustration for you to watch the games and not be able to be a part of it.
Well, it's frustrating, but at the same time, they've played so well all year long that it's really taken kind of the burden away from me. I mean, I've had so much fun coming in here every day, watching these guys pitch and play ball. I've been rooting for them hard when they're on the road too. So, I feel like I'm hanging on every pitch. I've said that a few times, but I really, you get a lot of time to really watch the game when you're on the road, when the team's on the road.
Well, I was about to ask you that. What have you learned about not being able to play the game? And I'm not saying about you have something you love taken away from you, and you know that you love the game of baseball as you see the play here by Terrio. But what have you learned this year to improve next year as a pitcher and as a baseball player just by watching?
Well, one thing I've learned is how much I love baseball, and I think that's the most important thing that I've learned. Of course, I haven't got out there throwing and tinkering with new pitches and stuff like that yet. But I've learned just how fun baseball is, and how much you miss it when you can't play. And I feel like I'm in the prime of my career. I really feel like I'm coming of age as a pitcher, and then I take an injury like that. But you know what? I had an incredible sense of peace about it. The team's lifted me up and made me feel very welcome even through all this and my struggles. So I'm trying to be a good teammate, try to be a good cheerleader, and that's really my role, to be a good cheerleader. But I really, the thing I've learned the most is how much I love baseball and how much I can't wait to get back out there.
Do you see anything that you could do differently as a baseball player between the white lines? Technically, anything that you see that some of these guys are doing, whether it be in opposition or guys on your team, that you say, yeah, you know what, I never noticed that before. I should take that away and maybe incorporate that into what I do.
Well, you know, it's been fun to watch the two Philly pitchers the last day and Kyle Loesch pitch last night. They both
hasn't been fun for your teammates.
Well, you know what though, it's from a baseball perspective. It's been fun.
Right.
What I like about Cliff Lee and Roy Halladay and what Kyle Loesch did too is that they throw all their pitches on both sides of the plate, and so a hitter really never knows what's coming, and they don't know what's coming to which location. So I mean, I really like that. And maybe you try to be you don't want to trick them too much because you want to stay with your strengths, but there's little ways like that you can incorporate new things into your game.
One of the things I want to ask you about, Adam, and you may have heard me say this because I know you follow the games and are listening and to all the telecasts when the team's on the road. And one of the things I said early on is when a player's hurt like you, clearly they miss you. You know they do. You're being a good teammate. They're trying to be a good teammate to you. It doesn't often work to have somebody who's on the disabled list being around. And I said that if anybody could do that, it would be Adam Wainwright. And I guess I want to get at what some of those struggles could be like to be a guy who's actually in it, but not really. And you know what that feels like. And I'm just wondering if you had any doubts about whether this was the right thing to do or not early on.
I didn't, and I'll just continue to show up and be here for this team until they tell me otherwise. I've really never had a second thought about being here. I feel still like I'm a big part of this team. And I feel like I'll be a big part of this team for years to come. So I feel like just from a personal standpoint, I'll lose something, and hopefully the team will lose something by me not being here.
Adam, we've talked about this a lot too. Everybody on this rotation has had Tommy John surgery with the exception of Kyle Loesch. So these guys have been through it before. What's the advice as you see a strikeout of Howard, and that is number 4 tonight for Carpenter? What's the advice that you've gotten from those guys and also other players around the league that have gone through Tommy John?
Well, the good thing about it is that you got 4 different perspectives, 5 different perspectives for me to go to and ask how their recovery went. So one guy, it might have been great, and another guy might have been really sore the whole time. And so I'll say, so for Carp, for instance, we know he had some struggles coming back with his nerve issues or whatnot, and my nerve was already moved like Jaime, so I can go to Jaime and say, Jaime, tell me a little bit about what you did coming back and how you felt and this and that. And the same with Kyle McClellan and Westbrook too. So there's lots of different things I can learn from those guys.
And you've seen that they've all come back. That's got to be a positive. I mean, just knowing that there's something on the other end.
Yeah, the success rate nowadays on average is at least 92%. So my odds of coming back strong are very good, and I promise Cardinal Nation I'm going to work my tail off to get back better than I was last year.
I know people love to hear that, and you were outstanding a year ago and the year before that and the year before that and during the World Series year. 1 ball, 1 strike here on Placido Polanco, and a little check swing. He did go. You mentioned something really interesting there, and not to get too technical, but can you try to explain what you mean about the nerve moving and your Tommy John as opposed to, like what you said with Garcia, as opposed to others?
Yeah, a lot of times some surgeons move your ulnar nerve right away when they move your when they take your ligament out and put a different one in there, and some surgeons don't. My surgery itself, Dr. Paletta did an amazing job, and we felt like we needed to move the nerve at the same time. That just takes it adds a little bit of risk in your recovery, but at the same time it makes your recovery after the thing go really, really well. And so it gets the nerve out of the problem area where you got all that scar tissue and inflammation building up in there, and it moves it out of the way so it's in a safe place.
Amazing. It is pretty amazing, isn't it?
It's very amazing. I watched the surgery.
Did you really?
Yeah, they filmed it, and I watched it back, and it's crazy what they can do nowadays.
1 ball and 2 strikes here on Polanco. Runner at first, and that is hit out of play. And you talk about being a cheerleader, and I know a guy that you really are pulling for, because we've talked about it a lot. His stuff has been very good this year, but the results haven't been there as far as wins and losses, and that's Carpenter here tonight.
Yeah, he's a guy that there's probably not another player in baseball that I'll root harder for than this guy. I mean, I just think he's helped me so much throughout my career, and he's still a mentor to me. I just think, and if you ask the players on our team, if there's anybody in this game that we believe in that can turn the season around, it's Chris Carpenter. And he's having horrible luck.
Look at that play out and right by John Jay. What a night he's having so far. Adam, will you stick around for a half inning?
Yeah.
John Jay, outstanding play in right field, takes the hit away from Placido Polanco. He's got a home run here tonight. Ooh, he may got a little lucky too. First thing that Adam Wainwright says to us during the break, I want to go back to Chris Carpenter because I don't want to shortchange him.
And we'll let him.
And just like a good broadcaster, right on cue, it's Chris Carpenter at the plate. So fire away your thoughts on Carp here this year.
Oh,
and just what he's meant to your career too.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we still have incredible faith in Chris Carpenter. He is still the guy that we want on the mound. His stuff is great. Everyone knows that. They're watching his stuff. I mean, he's throwing 93 to 95 miles an hour. His curveball's great. You know, I mean, we just believe in this guy. And he's a workhorse, and he's a stinking competitor, man. This guy wants to win more than anybody else wants to win, it seems like. So we're rooting for him. We know this. He has the ability to go out there and win 10, 12 games in a row. He's done it before.
One ball, one strike on Chris Carpenter, who got the bunt down with 2 strikes. His previous at bat, and this time he pops it into shallow right center. Cardinal fans miss seeing this delivery by Adam Wainwright, and we have the Exmo camera that'll really show the torque that you put on an elbow.
Yeah, and if you look, I mean, right here, this is curveball, obviously, a little
index
finger
finger
action.
up.
I don't know why I do that, but it just happens that way. If you look at my arm, it looks like it's bent back pretty far, but some people's arms go way back farther than that. So that's just the natural throwing mechanics. If you took anybody off the street and had them throw a rock down the street, that's what their arm would look like. And you know, throwing a baseball is hard on your arm, no question about it.
So Monday, Adam Wainwright tells us that you start throwing a baseball. Any idea what that may feel like? Have you even just one time maybe just guided a ball out there just to see what it might feel like?
I know exactly how it would feel like. I haven't thrown any baseballs, but I've been throwing. We have these little, I don't know how much they weigh, 2-3 pound little red balls that we throw into the trampoline or whatever, and I'm firing that thing.
Are you really?
So yeah, I'm really letting that thing go. So there's no question I can throw a baseball, and it's just you got to bring it along slow, and you got to bring it along at the right time so you don't mess anything up.
And I bet this year has given you, and you talked about kind of having a piece about being injured and being a good teammate, wanting to be a cheerleader, but I assume you've gotten a little bit different perspective, just big picture beyond just the game here with your family, getting to spend more time with your young kids, and you talk about that a bit.
It has been a blessing in disguise, being able to go home and spend time with my family, almost like it's an off season every day when the team's on the road. I mean, I have 2 little girls at home and actually a 3rd girl on the way. And you know what? My wife needs me at home right now. I think God planned this perfectly. There's not a better time for this team for me to get hurt. And the fact that I was hurt in spring training, I'll be ready to go next year at spring training to start the season. I won't miss part of both. I'll be there completely next year if all goes well. And I'm spending some really good bonding time with my girls. You know, a dad is the most important figure in a girl's life, no question about it, and I want to be there for that.
We're going to have a Twitter question that kind of is right down that similar path here in just a moment. As you see, this pitch is popped up near the Cardinal dugout, and in the green seats it goes and out of play, maybe in that camera well. The Twitter question for Adam Wainwright: what's been the silver lining to this injury? So you just mentioned it, the blessing in disguise, being home with your family, but what other things have really been kind of that silver lining in an injury like this for you?
Well, you realize how lucky you are to play a game like this for a living. I mean, in a town like this, for an organization like this, I mean, it just doesn't get any better. And sometimes you take that for granted, playing every day and traveling and whatnot. Yeah, it's just, you know, you don't really realize how good you have it until you don't have it. And I'll come back next year with a complete new respect for this game, and I'll be rested, I'll be strong, and I'll be a horse, man.
Adam, we had a chance today and MC to function in the Champions Club as this will find the seats out of play. And Bill DeWitt was part of it. Dan Farrell was part of it. And the one thing that they talked about was the fact that, you know, Cardinal Nation is so big and baseball is so important for people here in the Midwest, and in particular people in Joplin. And I know you were one of 3 players, Kyle McClellan, David Freese, the other 2 that went to Joplin to visit those families. And I can only imagine, because in talking with everybody else that was down there, and I haven't had a chance to talk to you about it, it's almost like a life-changing experience to go see that devastation and also see what the fans had to say and what those families had to say. Matter of fact, they brought up this story about Kyle McClellan. He said, well, where's your Cardinal stuff? And he said, Kyle, I'd love to have you sign it, but it's all gone. You know, what was that experience like for you?
Well, several things came out of that for me. One, I've never seen anything remotely close to that devastation. I mean, that was horrible. I know things have happened in the past that are like Hurricane Katrina or something like that, but you know, talk about a town that was completely decimated, and that's Joplin, Missouri. And I'll tell you another thing that came out of it. I was really proud to be an American and see the resolve that these people had. I mean, you got a house completely obliterated, a neighborhood for that matter, completely obliterated on the ground with an American flag up saying, we will rebuild, God bless. I mean, it just doesn't get much better than that to me. I mean, the people are not going to let this defeat them, and they're going to come out of this a stronger people and a stronger community, and they just need our help. They just need our help.
2 outs and a 1-0 pitch here to Terrio, and it's back to Kendrick. Adam Wainwright, thanks so much for coming up here. We really do appreciate it.
Thanks,
Get
guys.
back soon, and good luck on Monday.
Silver lining getting hurt is getting up here to talk to y'all.
There you go. I don't know if that's true, but we do appreciate it.
All right.
That's Adam Wainwright. 5-0 St. Louis as we head to the 5th. All-Star game coming up in Arizona. And you'll be able to watch that July 12th live from Phoenix at 7 only on Fox. A few things I take away from that interview. Number one, he's always been humble, still is, and always a very good guy, very appreciative to see him be able to come up here and do that interview with us. But great to hear that he's throwing Monday, and it's also nice to hear that he already has been throwing. I did not realize that.
Even if it's just little kids'
Who
balls,
cares?
it doesn't make any difference. He's making the movement, so
right.
That is good news, and that means he's doing that without any pain, or he would be stopping it, basically. But it's interesting you mentioned how humble he is, and he absolutely is humble, but in the same sentence he can say, I'm going to come back and I'm going to be a horse.
Right.
And I love that about him. He's a competitor, and he cares about being excellent at what he does, and that's one of the reasons that I think he's really has a great deal of respect for Chris Carpenter, because that's how he views him, as a bit of a mentor to him, as a guy who's professional but also tenacious in terms of being a competitor.
We had a shot, by the way, of Carpenter and Cruz in between innings, and those two were talking, Rick. And you mentioned earlier how we saw Kyle Kendrick shaking off his catcher. I don't think we've seen that maybe once or twice tonight from Carpenter. So you got the veteran with a young guy like Cruz back there, at least young in terms of Major League Baseball experience, and those two have worked very nicely together tonight.
I think part of that is Cruz paying attention to what Dave Duncan has told him before the game too. They're having a meeting, or they always have a meeting, and they talk about, here's how we're going to attack somebody. And if you're a smart baseball guy that understands the game, you're paying attention to what Dave Duncan has to say. That's really his expertise, Dave Duncan's, is how to attack a hitter with the particular stuff that the pitcher has. I think that's what makes him a very, very good hitting or pitching coach.
I think we also made Cardinal history here tonight. First player in full uniform ever to do an interview in the booth. Spikes, stirrups.
Let me look in the record books. I'll try to find out.
Everything. I mean, that was full uniform, full gear. Ground ball to third. Descalso showing off the arm and makes the play. Francisco retired. Visit Bush Bash prior to every Friday home game at the Ford Plaza this Friday. Tomorrow, Gary Robinson. Visit cardinals.com/promotions. And again, if you didn't hear it earlier, we have a 48-hour ticket sale happening as we speak. $12 pavilion level tickets. And really, it's $12 to go see the Cubs on a Sunday. Also the Willie McGee bobblehead and the Albert Pujols action figurine. Get tickets for all those games for just $12. Let's go to cardinals.com/summer as Holiday puts that away. Our trivia question here tonight, brought to you by AT&T. Named the pitcher with the most wins at Busch Stadium 3. He may have been in our booth. Adam Wainwright, Carpenter at 28, trying to get to 29.
And let's hope that Chris Carpenter will be the leader in that category by season's end.
Wouldn't that be something?
And Wainwright will have to catch up.
Well, he brings up a very interesting point, is the fact that, you know, he's saying that, hey, Carpenter can reel off 7 or 8 or 9 in a row. And that would take care of a lot of the issues that this team has been suffering from here the last week or so.
Especially if 2 or 3 other guys follow suit. You don't have to win everyone, but if you can get the rotation turning as it was a month or so ago, where you were getting 8-inning starts, good start out of everybody, then the winning streak starts to come alive again.
Rick, I asked a scout today, I said, am I seeing Chris Carpenter properly? Am I seeing a lively fastball, the good cutter, the breaking ball? And that's when I mentioned earlier, he said the breaking ball we've seen, he hasn't gone to it as much. That time he does, but a lot of cutters, fastballs, the changeup. And they said it's still sharp. He said, you know, you look at him, run support, those kind of things obviously have played a major factor this year, but the scout, in his opinion, still sees a very sharp pitcher.
Sharp, yes, but the same level of elite consistency, no. He's made more mistakes with his curveball than he's made in past years, and some with the cutter, and some with the fastball, and some with the changeup. I'm not saying a lot of them, but more than usual. And he hasn't been helped by his defense or by his offense. So I don't think he's that far away. I don't think it's really unreasonable to think he could go out there and win 7 or 8 games in a row. I think Mr. Wainwright, our other color analyst here tonight, is right.
1 ball and 2 strikes, or rather 2 and 2, excuse me, with 2 outs and a 5-0 St. Louis lead. Carlos Ruiz has had a heck of a series last couple of nights here against the Cardinals. And a grounder to Descalso. Takes his time, throws a strike over to Berkman. Jay, Holiday, and Berkman coming up. It's 5-zip St. Louis. Back in St. Louis, and we'll have the Blue Jays here tomorrow. Morrow against Westbrook. Jake is 6-4. And it's brought to you by Budweiser tomorrow at 6:30. Our Budweiser What's on Tap. And a look at Jose Bautista. Changed his stance, changed his career. It's amazing.
Is it that simple?
Apparently for him. Most runs the Cardinals have scored in a Carpenter start since May 10th at Chicago. That's a span of 8 starts.
You wonder about the pressure of a young catcher like Tony Cruz sitting next to the pitcher, Chris Carpenter, trying to take your lead from him. So far, so good. 5 zeros. He's done a nice job behind the plate. But you'd still think maybe somewhat intimidating, Dan, for a young guy. Can't be afraid to make a mistake, though.
I'm sure we'll talk a lot about Bautista this weekend and his home runs, but what about this home run? The Nissan drive of the game earlier tonight off the bat of John Jay. He was also robbed his second time up by Utley, and he hits a fly ball into right field here for the first out. Jose Bautista, Rick, with the Pirates, Orioles, Royals, Devil Rays, and now he has found a home with the Toronto Blue Jays, to say the least. 2010, he busts out and hits 54 home runs. As Holiday hits it to Polanco, 2 away. Next time you want to catch a Cardinals game, head to StubHub. You'll find the seats you want and the freedom to choose where you'd like to sit. StubHub, the official fan-to-fan ticket marketplace of the Cardinals. The most home runs Batista had hit prior to his 54 home runs, 16. The most RBIs he had had in a season prior to 124 last year, 63. And this year, he already has 22 home runs.
Having an MVP kind of season.
47 RBIs. And he leads in walks with 63. Cal Kendrick took over for Roy Oswalt. Oswalt went 2 innings. 5 hits, 4 runs, all were earned. The 2-0 pitch. Berkman seems to be getting locked in again, doesn't he?
Yeah, he really does. He's swinging a lot better. He has a nice, easy kind of swing. He doesn't overswing very often. Just tries to put the bat on the ball. A little late on that one. Hits the ball very well the other way. We saw that in his second at bat when he singled off of Kendrick.
Three and 1 the count on Berkman with 2 outs and nobody on. And Berkman hits it to the right side, knocked down by Utley on the outfield grass and makes the play. Chris Carpenter back to work when we come back. Beautiful night here in downtown St. Louis. Over 40,000 here at the ballpark. This is Kyle Kendrick, his first plate appearance of the night. And that's it out of play. Last time that this spot came up, Roy Oswalt was due up, and then the pinch hitter was Cliff Lee. He struck out. Carpenter has struck out 4 tonight, and he's allowed just 2 base hits. Big gap in the left center, and the outfield very, very shallow for Kendrick. Two balls and 2 strikes. Kendrick is 1 for 8 this year. He struck out twice. A pitch at 95 on our gun.
Dan, I was very surprised to see today that Jim Riggleman is no longer the manager of the Washington Nationals. He
Very
resigned
much
today.
Surprising, huh?
Former Cardinal coach.
Sunday, fans ages 15 and under receive a Cardinals duffel bag with a paid admission. And that's courtesy of Powerade and Shop and Save. For tickets, just head to Cardinals.com. And Sunday's really a good deal. They've got $10 terrace level seats this Sunday, which also includes a free hot dog and Coke. You get your duffel bag, and pavilion level seats are $20 for Sunday, part of dynamic pricing. Here's Jimmy Rollins, who is 0 for 2 as we're back to the top of the lineup. Jim Riggleman, and it just seems like Washington may have been turning the corner. It was a win today, and they're above 500.
They'd won 9 out of their last 10, and I think he just felt as if he wanted to get his option in his contract taken care of, and he wanted an extension that was actually part of his contract, was to have a option for another year, and they did not respond to his ultimatum, and he just resigned, and they accepted. Kind of odd for a team to be playing so well in the middle of a season, but that's, I guess, the decision he had to make.
He does not want to be a lame duck manager.
No.
You know, and I think that's probably what you're seeing there. As Rollins tried to check his swing, and he could not. 2-2. Unfortunately for Jim Riggleman, it looks like Washington is starting to finally get better, and they'll have that young talent coming up here in the next year or two. Strasburg will be back. They got the young hitter. Rollins hits it out of play.
I respect him so much, Jim Riggleman, and been with him a couple of years, of course, in a Cardinal uniform, so I got to know him very well as a coach. He was a minor league player with the Cardinals for a number of years, and so he knows this organization, ran the minor leagues for a number of years, and you can't find anybody that would say a bad thing about Jim Riggleman. He knows the game. He's very easy to get along with. He's kind of hard-nosed guy when it comes to the competition, but you're supposed to be, and it's just unfortunate to me that he's without a job today.
Rick, what about the players knowing, as you see the efficiency of Carpenter tonight, knowing that you have a guy that's in a final year of his contract, and either respecting him or the lack thereof?
That's always a problem, and it's more of a problem in the game today than it was certainly 25-30 years ago.
Lance Berkman and the Cardinals are just standing on the field because there's only 2 outs, and Berkman was saying, come on guys, it's time to head in the dugout, and that's not the case. Could join Al Rabowski on Saturday. They'll head to Hannibal and improve the Eugene Field Elementary School's baseball field. Go to missioncontinues.org. Donate, volunteer, and that'll be this Saturday.
That was funny. Lance was so sure he was right. He was going to talk the other 8 guys on the field into following him, and he didn't care what the scoreboard said, what the umpire said. He knew it was 3 outs. That was funny.
I think Carpenter was ready to follow him in too.
Always check your leaders. Even they're wrong sometimes.
That's right. There's a strike at the knees to Shane Victorino. Victorino is lined out to short and also grounded out to second. But just joining us, the Cardinals picked up a John Jay home run in the first. Then 3 more off of Roy Oswalt in the second. Added another in the third, and they lead it by the score of 5-0. A 2-1 pitch. That late movement on that pitch by Carpenter.
And an odd swing by Victorino. We saw the same swing from him last night, almost like he's playing pepper. Like he doesn't want to swing, and at the last minute he thinks, well, I'd better protect, and kind of the ultimate slap hitter swing from Victorino, who does have some pop in his bat. 8 home runs on the season. You don't really think of him as a slap hitter, but he's had some odd swings in this series.
A 2-2 pitch. Pulled foul. With his speed, you know, Rick, you're going to see the numbers at the end as you get a look at the longest active hitting streak against the Birds. Victorino now with 16. But Shane Victorino has 8 triples. He's going to wind up double digits probably in triples, home runs, stolen bases.
Wouldn't think of Philadelphia necessarily as a triple ballpark.
Not at all.
Colby Rasmus up among the league leaders in that department.
The 3-2 pitch. Victorino pulls it down the right field line, but foul. Victorino has been an all-star, couple of World Series. It's Tampa Bay and the Yankees. And the Rule 5 pickup back in 2004. And he picks up a base hit into right field. Mentioned Jim Riggleman resigning as the manager of the Washington Nationals. Here's some other news and notes. Tim Lincecum, 2-1 win against Minnesota, 7 innings in that game. Jose Reyes continues his torrid pace, 2 for 4, a couple of RBIs, and a 4-1 win against Oakland.
And speaking of triples, Reyes has 13 of them, and he is just red hot. He's having an outstanding season, and he's going to be looking for a nice little contract somewhere down the road.
About to say, he's making himself some big-time money. And there are those around baseball, as you see Utley take a strike, trying to figure out whether or not the Mets, with their financial situation, will be able to keep a guy like Reyes, or do they trade him? And the same goes for David Wright.
Yeah, I think there's a issue that some way the commissioner is going to end up being involved in, and when you have teams that are financially desperate, that there may be moves that may not be in the quote-unquote best interest of baseball, and I'm just not really sure the competitive balance is always going to be there in those situations, and he may have to step in. And I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it certainly could happen. When you look at the Dodgers, when you look at the Mets, you've got some problem clubs there.
Large market teams that never should be in that situation.
Agreed.
Here's the 0-2 pitch.
You know, the Dodger one really confuses me. It's just a wonderful stadium and a wonderful venue, and it's got great history, and you've got how many million people in that region to come out and watch a team that's rich in history, and you've got some kind of marquee young players there. You've got Don Mattingly, who I think would be a very likable manager in charge, and it's just not working out right now for them.
No. With 34 and 42, 7.5 games back. That's a base hit into right. Victorino avoided the baseball, stops at second. And there was back-to-back pitches by Carpenter that Victorino easily could have stolen second base. Actually started, then stopped, then got out of the way of the baseball. And one swing of the bat by Ryan Howard. We've got a new ball game.
Yeah, this is a tough place for him. There's the delivery of Carpenter, and the next 4 or 5 pitchers will be crucial to the outcome of this game for Chris Carpenter. With Ryan Howard at the plate, 2 runners aboard. A lot of zeros on that board already for Carpenter, but this is a tough assignment here.
Saw the replay. It was the Hyundai Foxmo. Runners at first and second. Ryan Howard 0 for 2, pair of strikeouts. Outfield is deep. Howard rips it foul. This half inning will be pitch number 28 for Carpenter.
The more pitches you throw in an inning, the tighter you get, the more you have a tendency to make a mistake. Really have to be strong mentally here. Make a good pitch, good location.
Remember his last start, one of the longest outings he has ever made in the major leagues. Last start 124. And tonight he is at pitch number 96. The bullpen has had their issues.
And the issues have not been resolved yet. Raul Valdez has been called up from AAA. Cardinals now with 3 left-handers in their pen, and in case you missed it in our pregame, Michael Clado is out.
Goes to Memphis.
Valdez, Cardinals saw him in that 20-inning game against the Mets last year.
Cardinals, by the way, do have a full 40-man roster, if you're wondering, because they outrighted David Kopp, right-handed pitcher. They optioned Clado, and they activated Brian Augenstein from the 60-day DL, optioned him to Memphis. So those moves give the Cardinals a full 40-man roster. Carpenter trying to gut through this 6th inning. 2-2 the count. If you're wondering, due up 4th, the Cardinals half of the 6th. The 2-2 pitch. Victorino stolen base from 2nd to 3rd. That just missed.
Pretty good pitch right there. Might have been low, and it was. You're going to throw 30 pitches in an inning. You'd rather it be in the 1st or the 2nd inning than be late in the game because you're already tired, and this just makes it worse. Cardinal fans behind their ace, Chris Carpenter.
.95 on the gun. We'll do it again. Crowd again will come alive. And Howard rips it into right for a base hit. Utley on his way to 3rd. And Ryan Howard gets the Phillies on the board with a 2-out RBI base hit to right, and that makes it 5-1. 3 consecutive singles against Carpenter with 2 outs here in this 6th inning.
Not very good location on that pitch, kind of middle away. Didn't really have a lot of movement to it. Dave Duncan really just trying to get him a breather right here. Is Dave Duncan telling him a joke?
I'm telling you, a little smile from both of them.
Who are those guys and what they do with Dave Duncan and Chris Carpenter?
2 guys that rarely smile.
What's this, comedy hour?
Well, if you would have seen Tony La Russa smile, you know something was wrong.
Especially with a couple runners aboard in a 5-1 game.
Right.
Against a team as good as the Phillies.
Polanco was robbed, if you want to call it that, by John Jay in right field on a play that looked like the ball may have gotten away from him, but the Cardinals got away with a break. And also he's grounded out to short. Cardinals may have gotten a break there. That hit the home plate umpires. It scooted through Cruz. Carpenter just said, "What happened?" Almost looked like Cruz was crossed up.
He wasn't sure whether to catch it with his glove facing down. Then he tried to turn it at the last minute and really just kind of balked it himself. I don't think there was a mix up, and I think that's what Chris Carpenter was asking. You know, are we sure we were on the same page? And I think Cruz just said, yeah, I just missed it.
1 ball, 1 strike on Polanco. The next 2, Placido, ground ball, little chopper, charging Schumacher, and he makes the play. Phillies get on the board, and it's 5-1. Cardinals baseball brought to you by Jack in the Box. Right now, you can get the new bourbon barbecue steak grilled sandwich at participating restaurants. And by Kia Motors. To learn more, visit kia.com. Beautiful night here in downtown St. Louis at Busch Stadium. Rick was just telling me he really appreciates some of the simpler things in life. And you were really getting a kick out of that Kiss can during the break.
Oh, nothing better.
That's ripped into right, and a fair ball just inside the right field line, and it's a ground rule double for Colby Rasmus here in the start of the bottom of the 6th.
No action in the Cardinal bullpen. Chris Carpenter due to bat 4th in this inning. He's at 100 pitches. There may be a decision for Tony La Russa. Rasmus with his 2nd hit of the night.
Right now, nobody up and throwing, so we will have to see. There's Schumacher as an RBI tonight, also a single.
I think you almost have to send him out for another inning, even though he's at 100 pitches. Danny's at the bottom of the order for the Phillies. And the bullpen in a bit of disarray right now. Not that they can't figure it out, but right now, certainly they're teetering. And I think the more innings you can get out of the starter, the better.
1-0 pitch. Up the middle, base hit. Here comes Colby Rasmus, and they'll hold him up. They hold him up at the last second, and it's runners at the corners. Right at the last second, he put on the brakes. Hard hit ball by Schumacher.
And a good arm by Victorino in center, but Rasmus, let's see if the jump is good enough. Decent jump at third, rounding third, and he's held up. I believe he could have scored on that. Jose Oquendo at least playing this one safely.
There's Cruz with runners at first and third. Brown has moved to the on-deck circle for the Cardinals. That would be the spot occupied by Carpenter. Right-hander begins to throw in the bullpen. Infield is drawn in.
Well, this is what has forced the situation. You get a couple of runners on, then you get to Carpenter's spot, then you have to pinch hit for him.
Cruz picked up an RBI, his first, back in the 2nd inning. And here comes a 1-0 pitch. Pass Rollins into center field. Cruz delivers with a base hit to make it 6-1. 2 RBI night for Cruz.
And that keeps Chris Carpenter in the game. Because now you have a bunting situation. This ball hit right back up the box. The pitcher really doesn't go for it. He thinks his shortstop's going to have a double play. So he kind of lets it go. Unfortunately, Rollins playing in a bit was not able to get to that ball. Unfortunately for the Phillies. Fortunately for Tony Cruz.
So here's Carpenter. Sacrificed first time up. And he also flied out to center. Looks at strike one. The sacrifice, identical spot. First time up, runners at first and second. He took a first pitch strike, and then eventually with 2 strikes, got the bunt down. And that bunt was towards third. No balls and a strike here on Carpenter. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Tony hiding back there, giving the signs to Jose Oquendo. He had a hard time seeing his manager on that last pitch. He actually, Oquendo had to go onto the infield grass to find Tony La Russa to get the sign.
Two strikes on Carpenter.
Ear, chin, chest, ear, chin, chest, 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 chin, ear, chest. You know what that is, Dan?
No idea. They change all the time. And again, Carpenter with 2 strikes. It's almost the identical at bat that he had first time up.
Identical result. Outstanding bunt by Carpenter.
This date in baseball history, 1988, Ozzie Smith, Willie McGee driving a run each, giving John Tudor all the support he needs. 2-0 shutout of the Phillies. 1988 Schnooks, this date in baseball history. And a strike at the knees to Descalso.
Infield in for the Phillies. I think you just have to get greedy if you're the Cardinals. You've got to pick up these extra runs, and the Phillies know they have to cut it off.
Fought off by Descalso and lined foul. 1 out, no balls, 2 strikes.
Cardinals are going to have to come back around the order again and face Victorino and Utley and Howard and Polanco either in the 8th or 9th inning. So the Phillies, I'm sure, Dan, have a sense that they're in every single game that they're playing, even if they're down 5.
One and 2. Descalso struck out swinging first time up. Also flied out to right. Two and 2. Time is called. Big at bat in this game right here, trying to get some more insurance here for Carpenter. It's a 5-run lead. Two veterans going head to head. Manuel, La Russa, Cards and Phils. The 2-2 pitch on its way. Fouled back and a good cut. Report we get on Roy Oswalt, it was back tightness. 33-year-old had lower back issues earlier this season. The 2-2 pitch on its way. Pickoff play down to third, and they got him. Schumacher gunned down at third base.
That's a great throw by the catcher and a big mistake by Schumacher. He just tried to get a little bit too much, and he was out by a good margin. Base running mistake. No other way to look at it.
The 3-2 pitch to Descalso. After being behind 0-2, draws a walk, and Ryan Theriot will be the hitter. Theriot tonight, RBIs in the second, single that scored 2. Saw where Cliff Lee threw a career high 126 pitches last night. Cardinals will try to extend Carpenter past 100 here this evening. 2 balls and no strikes. Last night had a lot of oddities to it. The Phillies in that ball game, left no men on base, and won the game. First time a team has done that against the Cardinals since 2000. That's ripped foul. When you think about Kyle Loesch, the first Cardinal starter to pitch 8 or more innings with no walks, no strikeouts, since Bob Tewksbury did that back in 1991. Just an odd ball game.
Tewksbury had done that a couple of times in his career. I believe the other Cardinal pitchers to do that. Nelson Briles also did it. You think of Tewksbury as a no walk, no strikeout guy. You don't necessarily think of Kyle Loesch that way. But he was very good last night.
2-1, hit off the end of the bat. Utley has to charge and flips it to Ryan Howard. The Cardinals strand 2, but they do pick up a run. It's 6-1 as we head to the 7th. 8 greatest moments in Major League Baseball All-Star Game history are going head-to-head to determine which is the most memorable, and you can vote at MLB.com/moments. And one of those moments, St. Louis perspective, Stan the Man's walk-off home run, 1955 All-Star Game, is among the final 8. And it's going up against Pete Rose, Ray Fosse, 1970. And you can vote right now, MLB.com. It's another stand for Stan.
I think you're trying to influence the vote, and I don't blame you.
I am trying. Ben Francisco in a 6-1 St. Louis lead.
We'll look and see how sharp Carpenter here is in this inning. You mentioned Danny had 100 pitches going into this inning, trying to get extended here to give the Cardinals bullpen maybe just 2 innings of work instead of 3. 3-1 on his first batter. 3-2. Now he strikes him out. Good little cutter.
Ryan Talbot is throwing in the Cardinal bullpen. Francisco retired. 6 strikeouts tonight for Carpenter. And it brings in
and no walks.
Brown.
Kind of vintage Carpenter, isn't it?
Really is. Still throwing hard too. Mid-90s.
Yep. And it's got some hop to it too. Not a flat 94 as if it can be flat 94. But he's got that little bit of life to his fastball. And I think he would be a hard guy to catch in some ways because the ball's just kind of moving so much. Garcia probably the hardest to catch on this team.
3-0. Yeah, Garcia's ball is just all over the place.
And you really get a sense with him that some of that movement is, now you can't really even say exactly where it's going to go. It's moving so much. I think with Carpenter is a little bit more pinpoint with his command, although Garcia doesn't walk a lot of batters either. His ball just moves so much. I'm not sure you can know where it's going to end up.
Carpenter, the 1-out walk. This June, the Marines are taking the Gateway City by air, land, and sea. Find out more. Full schedule of events. Go to marines.mil/Marine Week. Schedule. Once again, that 48-hour ticket sale is taking place right now. Cubs series on July 31st. $12 tickets. Willie McGee bobblehead, Pujols action figurine at cardinals.com/summer. That sale will end tomorrow night at midnight. Great way to come to the ballpark. Take advantage of those tickets. This is where Carpenter would love the double play, get out of it, and maybe his night would be through.
Tony Cruz, nice timing for a visit to the mound after a walk. Now 1-0. Don't wait till it's 2-0 or 3-0. Go out there and just say the magic words to help your pitcher get that double play.
Raul Ibanez is moved to the on-deck circle. And a lefty is getting loose in the pen for the Philadelphia Phillies. Contreras, by the way, for them was put on the disabled list. Perez, the lefty, is getting loose for the Phillies. Charlie Manuel actually said after the game last night Contreras was totally unavailable, and many on the Phillies side of things thought that they might go with him, with Cliff Lee getting up there and pitch count, but Lee finished the game off.
Unavailable and not needed.
The latter especially. Here's a ground ball foul.
And talking about the catcher going out to a pitcher who's struggling with control, my college coach was famous for yelling at our catcher. Anytime any of our pitchers would have trouble throwing strikes, he would yell at the catcher, never the pitcher. He would say, "David, make him throw strikes," and he would scream it at the top of his lungs. And the catcher, who played some minor league ball with the Braves, would look over and like, how am I supposed to do that?
Right.
And his point was, you've got to find a way to get him locked in, and you have to feel responsible for it. And I just think that's, you know, there's some brains to that. Of course, it's the pitcher's responsibility, but the catcher is his best asset.
And when you're at Virginia, as you see the strike breakdown for Carpenter, 76 on the night, you're not playing in front of 40,000. So when he's screaming at the catcher, you're hearing that as well.
Everybody's hearing it.
By the way, here for Carpenter, he's over 115 pitches in consecutive starts for the first time since 2001 with Toronto. Hyundai Foxmo, the front foot of the batter.
We saw a good picture there of how very little the movement is forward. You know, you're taught incorrectly often as a kid to step into the ball. That's kind of old school. That's like that's Abner Doubleday old school. You don't really step into the ball. Most hitters pick their foot up and either put it straight down or maybe go an inch forward, but they don't really take a very long stride.
Jim Edmonds.
Yeah, I mean, let the ball come to you instead of why are you in a hurry to get your body out to the ball. Let it come to you is the new theory.
120 the pitch count now for Carpenter. With 6-1 ball game. Raul Ibanez the hitter, a check swing.
I think Babe Ruth was the last guy to step into the ball.
Seems that way, doesn't it?
He stepped into about 714 of them pretty well.
For 4 in this series, Raul Ibanez. Would seem like just even an inning ago, Carpenter was running out of gas. Middle of that lineup for the Phillies, which can be devastating. And here he's still in this game and giving the Cardinals hopefully 3 more outs. 2-2.
And you can be out of gas in 1 inning and not necessarily the next inning, because you're throwing pitches in rapid succession. You may be throwing 25 or 30 pitches as he did last inning without a break. Then you come in, you sit down for a minute, you regroup, you go back out, and you've got some gas left.
The 2-2 pitch to Ibanez. He got him. What an outing tonight for Chris Carpenter. 7 strikeouts. And it's time to stretch. 40,000 plus here at Busch Stadium. Look at the battery tonight of Cruz on the left, and there's Chris Carpenter. And Carpenter's night, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts, and 1 run allowed.
Yeah, he walked into this game with Tony Cruz at his side, and Tony Cruz was with him all night long. Very good stuff by Carpenter. Had a good cutter, I thought, tonight. I thought that was his outstanding pitch, his strikeout pitch. And very nice performance for Mr. Carpenter.
Juan Perez, our Chevy called to the bullpen. Lefty is in out of the Dominican. And a ground ball sharply hit to first, and Ryan Howard puts it away. The question right now for Tony La Russa, where do you go with your bullpen? And the Cardinals have 6 outs to get. And at the top of that lineup, you've got a pair of switch hitters. Rollins from the right side hits only .216. And then you'll see Shane Victorino, and he hits .362 from the right side. Now you do have that luxury of 3 lefties out there to mix and match, because you have Howard and Utley you got to think about as well.
Well, I don't know that there is a clear-cut choice right now. You do not have a clear-cut 8th inning guy. You throw the lefty-righty thing out the window if you've got an 8th inning guy. And of course, Salas is the 9th inning guy, and if it's still 6-1, maybe you don't need him. You hope you don't need him to save the game. But in this case, I think that the logical thing is just to bring in the left-hander, a left-hander for the first 4 batters, and I think Trevor Miller's the best choice right now. Tony's not afraid to use Jason Mott against anybody.
Saw that the other night with the matchup with Ryan Howard, and Mott wound up hitting 2. Think about Ryan Franklin, and you want to get him straight, Rick, but since May 31st, Ryan Franklin has pitched in a total of 4 games. 4. You know, that's got to be tough on him just to try to stay sharp in any way that he can. And when he's gotten in there, he has not been sharp.
Yeah, you really want to have a role and a method and a sequence in your bullpen, and the Cardinals don't have that right now. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for it, and a lot of it is the Cardinals just not being able to be effective. The lefty-righty thing hasn't been effective, and we saw that the other night. And I just think there's a lot of question marks, and until that gets settled, we're going to have some kind of flip a coin moments, I think, and we're thinking that way, and I'm not so sure Tony's not in that same boat right now, thinking I'm not sure which way to go.
Well, he extends Carpenter, knowing that he had 126 pitches in his last outing, and goes with 120 plus in this outing. As we mentioned before, that's the first time he had done that. Carpenter, back-to-back starts with 115 or more all the way since 2001. There's a swing and a miss by Berkman. Now what you get concerned about is the next start. But Tony right now says, I don't care, we need a win.
Yeah, let's worry about this one right now. Exactly. Interesting mechanics for this left-hander. Kind of has the screwball delivery where he moves off to the third base side so he can turn it over. Haven't really seen a screwball from him, but that throws a little bit like Herrera. It was up with the Reds, Cincinnati Reds, and a little bit like Valenzuela, where he just moves off to third so he can get on top of the screwball. But that's not really what he's throwing.
There's a high fly ball, right center, and Victorino makes the catch. Rick, if you get a chance, take a look at the front leg of this pitcher and just how far towards the third baseline he's at.
And again, that's what a screwball pitcher does. They open way up so they can get on top and throw a screwball. Kind of the opposite to what Kyle McClellan does, where he throws across his body so he can get the ball to sink. He's trying to get the screwball here, but it's just kind of odd. I would think he would be odd to face in the box. Well, not really sure where the ball's coming from.
Again, look at that front leg and where he finishes towards the third base line. Looks like he may hurt himself.
Looks like he hurts himself on every pitch he throws. That's right. There's the opening up. Way open. I would think it'd be very difficult to throw a sharp slider, and that was not a bad one. When you open up, basically you flatten out the slider. Your arm drops. You're not going to stay on top as well.
Here's a 2-0 pitch. Now make it 3-0 here on Colby Rasmus. Rasmus tonight with a single and a run scored in the second. He lined out to short and doubled in the sixth.
I'm sure they've tried to change him before.
Good luck. And that's ball 4. Two walks in the inning for Juan Perez, and it brings in Skip Schumacher. Schumacher with an RBI tonight, a pair of singles, and last inning he was picked off at third base. And there is a strike to Skip Schumacher. Baez is getting loose in the pen for the Phillies. And here comes an 0-1 pitch. Inside to Skip. We talked earlier that Berkman, we felt that he looked very comfortable at the plate. I think the same, Rick, can be said here, and just watching Schumacher last 2-3 games looks a lot better at the plate.
Timing's much better. Good at bats every time up there.
And as we say that, he waves at that pitch. But the point being, the Cardinals probably rushed him back from that injury and had no time to get many at bats in and just get that timing back.
Tell you what's been good is his defense. Made an outstanding playing coming in, and he didn't have any problems with the timing there.
And a swing and a miss, and Skip strikes out. Cardinals strand 2. That was right on cue. Right on
Your
cue.
fault, Dan.
He hit it right on the head. Cardinals baseball is brought to you by Bud Light Lime, the just right taste of Bud Light with a refreshing splash of 100% natural lime flavor. By Bank of America, where ATM deposits are as easy as an infield fly. No deposit slip, no envelope with Bank of America, member FDIC. And by AT&T. Bullpen has 6 outs to get. In the Cardinals with a 6-1 lead. Chris Carpenter, 2 consecutive starts with 120 pitches. Last time May 1st, May 6th of 1999. Last time that happened for Carter.
So next start, which we're not worried about yet, if you're Tony La Russa, you may have to look to try to get him a 6-inning start. Brian Talent taking over. Now one of 3 left-handers in the Cardinals bullpen, with Raul Valdez being recalled today. Numbers not good for Talent. He was injured early in the season on a play at first base. He just never really has gotten untracked. Getting an opportunity here tonight.
Rollins, Victorino, and Utley. Yadier Molina is your new catcher. Takes over for Cruz. And Rollins hits a high fly ball into deep center field. Rasmus makes the catch on the track. The all-important first out for the reliever.
Ball was hit a very long way by Jimmy Rollins, who homered here last night left-handed. And Colby Rasmus almost ran out of room in center field.
We talked about how Rollins from the right side is a .216 hitter. Victorino on the other side, he's a switch hitter. .362 from this side of the plate, .280 from the other side.
Not your classic double switch here for the Cardinals, because Brian Talent will be batting in the 7th spot, which will be the first spot. And Yadier Molina batting in the 8th spot. Normally when you have a double switch, you bring in 2 players, you'll make sure the pitcher's not the first one to hit, but this is really just Talent's only inning here.
Line on Carpenter, 124 pitches, 80 were strikes as he goes 7 innings. 5 hits, 1 walk, 1 run, and he struck out 7.
So I think the method to the madness, Dan, just to finish that point, is Tony would rather not have Yadier Molina leading off the inning. He'd rather have him hit second. The pinch hitter will be more of a leadoff type guy.
It's sharply past Berkman, and Victorino will reach with 1 out. That's an error on Berkman. Berkman was really off the line and looked to be in perfect position to make this play.
Cardinals' second error. Didn't really move his feet very well. I mean, he kind of just leaned over and then just kept leaning as if the ball was kind of scooting away from him. Really had time to take a step. He's been decent at first base for the most part, Lance Berkman.
No doubt. Here's Chase Utley.
And as we talked about in game one, this is hold your breath time.
Utley on the night, pair of base hits, also flied out to right. Two 2-1 pitch is upcoming. And that's inside to Utley. It was the 8th inning in game one in which everything fell apart for the Cardinals in a 2-1 game, and it wound up being a blowout in favor of the Phillies.
I think you've just said what many of us are thinking.
40,532, all a little anxious here tonight as well. 40532. One more time, that ticket special going on until midnight tomorrow. $12 tickets for the Cubs on a Sunday. Willie McGee bobblehead and Pujols action figurine. Brian Talent is saying, just give me a double play. Fernando Salas is getting loose. What's that tell you right there too, Rick? He's not messing around as Chase Utley is hit. So runners at first and second, and that may be it for Talent. We've got Howard coming up. Salas has shown in his young career he's been effective at times against lefties. And it could be a 5-out situation for Salas to come in this game. Ryan Howard is 1 for 9 against Talent. 4 strikeouts.
I'm sure Tony knows that number, but I'm sure he does not like that last pitch from Talent. Cardinals have hit more batters than any team in the National League other than the Mets.
The splits for Ryan Howard this year against lefties, 267. So the average actually is better, but the 16 home runs have come against right-handed pitching. And the first pitch is swung on and missed. Popped up left field. Matt Holliday under it, and he dropped it. So force play at third. Holliday never looked comfortable underneath that baseball. And the Cardinals may catch a break here because Victorino is off the bases.
He actually takes his eye off the ball a little bit here. He goes to catch it, then he's looking for a runner, and he realizes, oh, I didn't finish catching this ball yet. And the Cardinals do catch a break because they're able to get the runner at third base. Not the way you draw it up, but Cardinals get through it.
Man, oh man, oh man. Tony La Russa will pull off a double switch here, and here comes Salas.
So he grounded out 7-5.
Think about the changes when we come back. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Cardinals and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the St. Louis Cardinals. Polanco on the first pitch by Salas. A chopper to short, and Howard is out at second. Bobbled by Theriot, but put away at second base.
Cards Blue Jays tomorrow at 6:30 on Fox Sports Midwest.
Danny Baez in for the 26th time this year for the Philadelphia Phillies. 3.98 ERA. And this is a guy that used to really be able to throw hard. And he comes in for the Phillies here in the bottom of the 8th, and the Cardinals leading by the score of 6-1.
Former closer. They have very good arms on this team, even in their bullpen. We know how good their starters are, but the bullpen, even though they're missing Brad Lidge, is pretty deep as well.
Pete Kozma. Kozma 1 for 4 in this series. First plate appearance tonight. Looks at a pitch inside at 92 from Baez. And Kozma hits a ground ball to his counterpart at second. Utley for the out. First plate appearance tonight for Yadier Molina. It was turned into a fan favorite here in St. Louis, hasn't he?
You better believe it. You go around town, you ask people who their favorite Cardinal player is, and of course Albert Pujols gets the most votes. I'm always disappointed that very few pitchers get any votes, even if they're Carpenter or Wainwright. That's my bias. But Yadier Molina is a pretty close second place, I would say. I think particularly the young fans just really just connect with Yadier Molina, and maybe it's just the youthful way he goes about what he does. Looks kind of young, although you'd have to put him in veteran status now, wouldn't you?
Oh, for sure.
When Albert talks about him, he talks about him like this little kid he's got under his wing, but I'm sorry, he's a man. He's a veteran.
Remember, you can go back to the 2004 World Series. He and Mike Matheny splitting time. I mean, that's how far he goes. That's a ball low outside, 3-1. Tony Cruz started this game behind the plate. He and Carpenter meshed well, and Cruz had a couple of RBIs as well. Molina, high fly ball into deep right field. That's trouble. That ball is off the wall. Yadi will dig for 2, and he's in with a double. Yadi didn't look comfortable going around the bag at first, and the right fielder did not look comfortable in getting that back in.
Yeah, they both tripped about the same time. Yadi almost fell over first base, and the right fielder did not get a clean bounce off the wall either, so Yadi is able to go to second. Sure, it won't be ruled an error, but fumbled a bit off the wall, tried to barehand it, and that was right around the time that Yadi was stumbling over first base.
If he fielded that cleanly, I think he would have had him.
I would agree.
With just a decent throw, but the Cardinals get the double from Molina, and here's Descalso.
I would not be surprised, Dan, Chris Carpenter's next start, to see Tony Cruz behind the plate.
Thinking the same thing. Tony, a lot of times La Russa will mix and match with those guys if there seems to be a good combination, as Descalso is hit.
And I don't think that's a knock on Yadier Molina, but you've got something positive building now with Chris Carpenter. Descalso not happy. I think he may kind of have a sense that that was a little bit of a payback for the number of Phillies that have been hit in this series.
Howard's been hit. Polanco was hit. He's been hit tonight. We talked about it. Part of the game.
It is part of the game.
So here is Theriot.
Back to Molina. It's not a knock on Molina, but you can build something positive with Carpenter and with Tony Cruz at the same time. You're looking for a place and a pitcher that he's comfortable with, has had some success with, so that's as much for Tony Cruz as it is for Carpenter.
Right down the middle for a strike. Brian Theriot flied out to deep left his first time up. Single, 2 RBIs in the second. Last 2 times in the 4th and the 6th he's grounded out. And he looks at his strike. 1 ball and 2 strikes, and the Cardinal leadoff man.
95. Herky-jerky motion. He kind of a short armor.
Kind of hesitates and then boom.
Reminds me of a former teammate, Rudy Sinez. Pitched with the Dodgers some. He used to throw about 100.
He was still pitching just a few years ago.
He threw the ball straight as an arrow at 100 miles an hour.
Here's a 1-2 pitch. Two balls, 2 strikes. Those two are always together and talking. It seems like during games inside that dugout. Find the 2 veterans with Berkman and Holiday. The 2-2 pitch taken low. One out, runners at first and second, 3-2 on Theriot. John Jay on deck. Runners go, and it doesn't matter. Bases loaded. Danny Baez has come in. He got the first man to ground out. And then it was a double by Molina. Descalso hit by a pitch. Walked to Theriot. Bases loaded. Here's John Jay.
I wonder if Tony La Russa is even remotely tempted to not send Salas back out for the 9th inning.
You read my mind again, and I think the answer would be absolutely not.
But you're thinking that.
Yes. Well, Salas, it only took 1 pitch, and then now you might get more insurance, and you're thinking it should be enough. You go with the guy out there.
What if it's 8-1?
And that's what I mean. I mean, you would figure then if you wanted to save Salas, you could. 1-0 pitch. 2 balls and no strikes. John Jay got it all started. His first time up, a 427-foot home run to right.
And you know, Dan, part of getting Salas hot in the bullpen, ready, come in the game, you know, whether he throws 1 pitches or 10 pitches, that really doesn't make much difference. The real deal is getting him up in the first place.
Right.
So it's not like you're really saving that much by not sending him out there for the 9th. But I guess the point would be if Cardinals can get some more runs here. And again, I'm with you. I don't. And first of all, I'm scared that you and I are thinking alike. That's the second time that's happened. But I just wonder what the tipping point is for Tony to say that's enough. Let's get somebody else some work.
And a walk to Jay. Makes it 7-1 as Molina scores. "14 balls, the 20 pitches thrown by Baez."
Will not be a save for Salas, even if he does finish out this game.
With the way that game one went, Rick, you just think probably in the back of Tony's mind, let's just get a win here, and our best option right now may be Salas, so let's stick with it.
I agree. That's what I would do.
So bases loaded for Matt Holliday, who's been quiet for the most part in this series. Doubled and scored. He has walked tonight. Jay with his second RBI now with 16 this year. First pitch to Matt. Taken for a strike.
Holliday had been 0 for 10 before that double. I would say that's very quiet for the likes of Matt Holliday.
Time is called. Blue Jays will be here tomorrow night. We're on the air at 6:30 here on your home of the Cardinals, Fox Sports Midwest. And an 0-1 pitch. Holliday, little flare, left field, base hit, and 2 runs will score. Matt Holliday picks up 2 RBIs and now at 37 this year.
And you know I'm going to ask you again. It's now 9-1 Cardinals.
And you're also thinking about, obviously, part of the equation is he gets up tonight, he warms up, it's 1 pitch, should be fine if he doesn't pitch the rest of tonight to be available tomorrow. And you definitely are thinking that way.
Well, now the factor too is you got a longer inning for him to sit, and I think that's also plays into it. If it lasts much longer than this here in the Cardinal 8th inning.
Berkman, high drive, left field, opposite Ray, goodbye. It's a 3-run homer. Number 18 for Lance Berkman. RBIs 52, 53, and 54.
And at this point, who cares who pitches tonight? How about the Cardinal offense here tonight? 12 runs, 13 hits. The offense has been consistent throughout this game. They've scored now in 5 different innings and a 6th spot here in the 8th.
And a right-hander is throwing in the Cardinal bullpen now. 12-1 St. Louis. Here is Colby Rasmus. What a year Lance Berkman is having as you see Mott getting loose. Lance Berkman, All-Star game is right around the corner, has to be in consideration to make that team.
No doubt. No doubt. Still in the top 10. He's now gone past Albert Pujols. That's his 18th home run, 3rd in the National League in home runs. RBIs are there, the on-base percentage.
At the luncheon today, John Mozeliak was speaking at the luncheon, and he said, we knew we were getting a good guy in Berkman. He said, I had no idea he's this good. He said he has been exactly what we needed as Rasmus strikes out in terms of production and also in terms of the clubhouse tight-knit group and what he has meant to this team in that regard. And you think about free agency this last year, you know, what player has had a bigger impact than Lance Berkman has on the Cardinals?
I don't think anybody has. And I think as you think about the time when the Cardinals signed Berkman, they had this inclination to think that maybe he could become close to what he had before, even if he wasn't going to be fully that. But that move was generally scoffed at by most of baseball. When the Cardinals said we're going to get Berkman, there was a ton of things written and said about what is the matter with the Cardinals. Why do they think Berkman is an answer for them? And you know, kudos to the Cardinals scouts and to the front office for saying we believe that there is talent left there, and we believe he's got the kind of character and work ethic, and we believe he's healthy enough to get back to at least a semblance of who he was when he was such a great hitter with Houston. And he's been that and more.
And that is a fair ball off the bat of Mark Hamilton. He'll dig for 2. And in with a stand-up double.
That's a couple of pinch hits in a row now for Mark Hamilton. This one just finds the inside of the third base line. Good for him. We're going to see him get a little bit more playing time at some point. Tony had said that he wants to find some places to start Hamilton, be against certain right-handed pitchers. Wonder if he was tempted to do that tonight. Could put Berkman back in the outfield, put him at first.
Kozma to Utley, a wide throw, but Lance Berkman, part of this big inning for the Cardinals. 6 runs, 3 coming on one swing of the bat by Lance. Coming up next, Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live. The Redbirds with a 12-1 lead here tonight as Jason Mott will take over for St. Louis. Cardinals needed a game like this in so many ways, you know, going the way that things had been.
You wish you could count for 2 victories, but you only get 1 if you're able to finish this off, and Jason Mott will have that job. But, you know, it feels like more than 1 victory. As bad as things have been of late, the Cardinals again winning just 2 of their last 11 games. And to have a wide margin victory like this is, I think, just the tonic they needed.
Ben Francisco leads it off against Jason Mott. Mott in game 1 had a tough inning. He wasn't the only one in that 8th. Hit a couple of men with the bases loaded. Well, in April of 2006, the Cardinals had scored 12 runs against the Phillies. That's the last time they scored this many runs against the Phils. If the Redbirds hold on, Carpenter goes to 2-7. And the Cardinals still will have not lost 3 straight home games since 2010. That was against Chicago.
Starting pitcher in that game where they scored 12 was Chris Carpenter. And you think about what that does to the run support for him. The number will be a bit skewed now.
Catch made by Brown, who takes over at right. Jay is in left field. Hamilton is at first, and Mott your pitcher. Found it interesting at the start of this game, Carpenter and Oswalt had only faced each other twice during the regular season in their careers, and Chris Carpenter, our Budweiser player of the game. 7 innings, 5 hits, a run was earned. He walked 1 and struck out 7. But 124 pitches tonight for Carpenter. 80 were strikes. And here is Dominic Brown. Fastball in there for a strike. So back-to-back starts for Carpenter. 120 pitches plus. Just don't see many guys do that anymore.
At any age.
1-1 pitch at the knees for a strike. 1-2. Valdez, the lefty, getting loose in the pen. Cardinals leading 12-1.
You'd think he's just getting some work in. Get used to throwing in his new Cardinal uniform.
Man, he blew it right by him. Strikeout for Mott, his first of the night.
You know, this is really the kind of pitch you want out of your 8th inning guy. A guy that can come in here and blow smoke and dominate an inning. And Jason Mott, you know, he has that in him, Dan. And we just don't see it often enough, but we know he's capable of it.
At the knees on the outside corner to Carlos Ruiz. One ball and 2 strikes, and they're on their feet. Foul back by Ruiz. That pitch at 97 from Mott. One-two is hit a ton out to left field. If it's fair, will it be gone? And that ball is a fair ball and a home run. Carlos Ruiz with a home run. And then makes it 12-2. He had quite a series.
Sure has. 4 hits last night. We're in game 1. And a hit last night. Ball barely gets out of here.
Ross Glode will be the pinch hitter. .339 feet, the estimated distance of the home run. And this is a fair ball. Glode will continue this game as Brown comes up firing into second, and it hits him. Here's Jimmy Rollins. Rollins is struck out looking. He's popped out, grounded out, and flied out. Now 258 this season. Two balls and no strikes.
Cardinal fans have been ready to celebrate for a few minutes now. They thought they were one pitch away. Ruiz homered to left and a double for Glode, and now a 2-0 count to Rollins. It looks like there's some real action now in the Cardinal bullpen as opposed to just throwing. Valdez back up again.
Two and 0 the count.
Dan Valdez was just getting work the first time, but if you get up and have to get ready to get in a game and don't get in, pitchers call those scares. So he might be getting a scare here.
Never forget Steve Klein, one of those games against Chicago. Was less than happy about having to get up and throw and get loose a couple of times. 2-2 now on Jimmy Rollins. The 2-2 pitch. Got him on the outside corner. 12-2.
A little anticlimactic, but an outstanding win for the Cardinals. The bats came alive today, and Chris Carpenter was very, very good.
Carpenter picks up his second win. We saw a home run hit by Berkman. Post-game show coming up next.
Game is over with a Cardinal victory over the Phillies. Al Hrabowski and I here at the Stadium Sports Bar and Grill, Lumiere Place, to break this one down. Hungo, a much-needed victory for the Cardinals.
Well, that's it. Really needed to win this ball game, and of course the Cardinals came through in every fashion. They played great starting pitching, a lot of timely hitting, and this was a game that they really needed to win, especially their first victory after the injury to Pujols. They can build off of this one, but it all starts with that good starting pitching.
Yeah, much more on that from Hungo coming up in just a moment. And we'll be joined by Ricky Horton as well. Plus, after sweeping the Phillies earlier this season, Redbirds were able to avoid being swept themselves by these Phillies. Plus, Chris Carpenter playing the role of stopper, and Carp is able to shut down that powerful Phillies lineup. Take you back to Busch Stadium for Cardinal player reaction. Tony La Russa with some Tony TV. Plus, the future is looking even brighter for a couple of Cardinal prospects. We'll tell you why. Happy birthday to Friday singer Rebecca Black. Last year you were 13. Today you're 14. Next year you'll be 15, and 16 comes after that. And there's no better way to celebrate than Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live.